Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel. It's Olivia, and as y'all can see, I am in a different setting today. I'm in the office. I figured everyone's out at lunch right now, so this was like the perfect opportunity to sit down and film a video while it's nice and quiet. But basically, today's video is gonna be my review and just my feedback on using Navy Federal and the particular loan that I used for my mortgage. And because I talk about the different kinds of mortgage options that are out there with clients, and a lot of times people want to know, what did you do personally, like because I am a homeowner, they want to know like what loan did I use. So to get right into it, I ended up using Navy Federal. For those of you who aren't familiar with Navy Federal, they are a little bit limited as to who can access their products. So typically you have to be, you either have to have some kind of military affiliation or have a family member that is or was in the military. And so my dad has been in the military his whole adult life. And so that's how I had access to their products. I've been banking with Navy Federal, I think since I was like 12. And as far as banking with them, it's always been great. Their mortgage department is handled a little bit differently, which I will get into later on in the video. So to start off, I do want to talk about pros and cons with this particular loan that I used. So the name of the mortgage that I went with is their Homebuyer's Choice loan. And it had some unique things about it that drew me into it and what eventually led me to go ahead and apply for that loan. So to start out, it is a conventional loan and there's zero down payment required, which is not the most common among conventional loans, and there's also no PMI. And so if you don't know what PMI is, it's mortgage insurance that is usually required to be paid to a lender when you're putting down like less than 20% of the purchase price on a home. And so that mortgage insurance is extra that you pay. It gets rolled into your mortgage, so your monthly payment, until you get to a certain amount that's paid down on the principal. And so that was not required with their Homebuyer's Choice loan. It also was really easy to get pre-approved for me. I was able to submit, I think it was like a Friday morning, I submitted all the information they had asked me to online for the pre-approval application, and I ended up getting my letter for pre-approval, I think within 2 hours. So that whole process was really easy, really smooth. So I submitted that letter to my realtor at the time because I wasn't working in real estate then, and we went out and started shopping for homes. So having that pre-approval letter, I always stress to my buyers how important it is to get pre-approved. If you're not paying upfront cash for the house, then you want to have that pre-approval letter and look like a serious buyer. So it doesn't hurt to get that pre-approval letter quickly. Also, already having Navy Federal for my checking and savings account, it makes it super easy to pay my monthly payment every month for my mortgage, to just basically just transfer it from one account to another. So those are the pros. I'm gonna go ahead and get into the cons. Now, I don't want to make it seem like the things I'm going to list as cons are only Navy Federal, because there are other mortgage companies that do have these same issues. They, especially when you're using the big banks and credit unions like Navy Federal, and you know, the housing market is booming right now, and so anyone that works in, you know, anything real estate related is fairly busy right now anyway. So I understand that, whether, you know, you're an agent, you're working in loans, you are an appraisal, you're a home inspector, you're a contractor, all those people have such a huge caseload right now. So I fully understand that. But the first con for me was that the process started out quickly, and then it seemed like we just kind of went into a slump and things got slow. So once I put an offer in on my home and the offer got accepted, I just had to send that purchase contract over to my loan officer, and they went ahead and started getting me into underwriting. And so they were verifying my employment, getting a copy of my tax returns, all of that, while we were getting the inspection done and the appraisal done. So the first thing that took a long time was the appraisal. And that is not on Navy Federal, because they do use, the appraiser doesn't work for Navy Federal. And they are, obviously, like I said, they're very busy and they're backed up right now. But I was told that they should have the appraisal back in about 2 weeks. And I think by like the third week, I called Navy Federal and to find out about the appraisal, because they were saying that they were going to send it to me as soon as they got it, as soon as they received it back from the appraiser. I was to get a copy in my online portal through Navy Federal. So I call over the weekend to find out what's going on, because it had been a while, and I think at this point, this was when my closing date did get pushed out 3 times. And I think this was when we were supposed to be working towards the second closing date, that time was getting close and I needed to have that appraisal back, or we were going to have to move the appraisal again, because the bank is not going to allow you to close on a house when they haven't received the appraisal yet. So I called, I finally did get in touch with my loan officer, and there was actually someone else I spoke to that was not my loan officer. When I answered the phone, he said, looking at my file, that it looked like the appraisal had come in a few days ago, and so nobody had ever called me to let me know that it was in, because that can be really nerve-wracking as a home buyer when you're waiting for that appraisal, because you want the house to at least appraise for the purchase price. And because if it doesn't, then you may either just decide to cancel the contract, or you may have to go back and renegotiate the price with the seller. So for both the seller and the buyer, I feel like the appraisal can be like one of the longest, what feels like the longest waiting period is waiting for that appraisal to come back. So I did talk to my loan officer, and he did let me know that the appraisal had come back, and it was good as far as the price that we had agreed on and everything. So, not a big deal, but I just thought it was a little bit like odd that the appraisal had come in and nobody had called me, and I had to call and reach out myself to find out. Now then, I had to get some work done. I had to get some repairs done on the home before I was moving in, because those were the terms of my contract. And it did rain, I think, almost every day from the point that my home went under contract to closing date. And so that did delay some of the repairs getting done. And so we had to push out our closing date, I think, another week or 2. And so that was no fault of Navy Federal. That just had to do with, the weather, and it was what it was. So finally, their septic company's able to come in, get the work that they need done. Some electrical work is done also. All of that stuff's completed. It's time to go ahead and verify with my loan officer when my new closing date will be. So this is the 3rd time that we're getting ready to schedule my closing date. I've got my homeowner's insurance documents ready to go. Navy Federal's had a chance to talk with my job and make sure that I work there, make sure I'm still making the same amount of money, verify everything that they need to verify with underwriting. And so at this point, I'm just waiting on the clear to close. Now, before you get that, you are supposed to receive a closing disclosure, and you have 3 business days, or you have to, in the state of Florida, have 3 business days to look it over. Saturday can count as a business day if it's not a holiday. Sundays do not count. Now, I'm supposed to be closing on a Monday, so I believe that would mean that I was supposed to receive my closing disclosures on a Thursday. So we're getting close. I've been trying to reach my loan officer a week up until my scheduled closing date. And I emailed her. I wasn't getting a response. I wasn't getting a call. And so I would call Navy Federal, and I'd speak to someone else, and they would just tell me that she's out of office, that they would leave a message for her, and that she'd get in touch with me as soon as possible. So come Wednesday, the week before my closing, I start getting nervous, because I know that next day I have to have the closing disclosures sent to me, or my closing date is going to get delayed again. And I don't want to have to keep pushing closing out. I don't want to have to push it out a 4th time, because you just never know. The contract could expire if we don't close by a certain date, and the whole deal may fall through. And so, like I said, I wasn't working in real estate at the time as a buyer. It was very stressful. I was very on edge about the whole thing, because I really loved the house. I had been looking. I had put offers in on previous houses, and it didn't get accepted. And so finally, I find a house I love. We agree on a reasonable price. Everything works out. I don't want to lose this deal because Navy Federal is moving slowly. Now, on Thursday morning, I call because I know that day is when I have to have the closing disclosure sent to me, or I will not close on that Monday and it'll have to get delayed however many days, until the title company has something available. And I think that was one of the issues too that kind of put me on edge, is I called the title company and they have so many closings scheduled at the time that they were like, well, if we can't get you in on Monday, then it may have to get pushed out a week or two. And so I kind of had to jump on it while I can. And so on that Thursday, I call Navy Federal, and I finally speak to someone because I'm trying to figure out what's going on. My loan officer was not responding to my emails, my calls, or any of that. And so I asked to speak to her supervisor if I could just, get some information, because I kind of felt like I was in the dark when it came to, towards the end, towards my closing. And so the woman that I spoke to said, your loan officer is actually out on vacation. So she did not let me know that. She didn't leave me an email or anything saying she would be out of office, especially that she'd be out of office during the time that I'm supposed to be closing and receiving my closing disclosures. And we had already discussed having to push closing out the previous times that it was supposed to be scheduled. And so she knew that if we didn't make it on this Monday, that we were going to have to push closing out even further. And from when I had spoken to her and I'd got my insurance documents and everything resubmitted with the new closing dates, she assured me that we would, Monday would be pretty good to close, unless we hit any bumps in the road, which we didn't hit any bumps in the road. I didn't have any more issues with insurance. The home inspection came out good. The appraisal came out good. Everything, checked out with them verifying my employment. So the only thing I was waiting on was for my loan officer to go ahead and get that approval from underwriting. So I finally was able to get through to this lady, and she was really what saved the deal. She was such a nice lady. When I spoke to her on the phone, she said that she was working from home and that she was going to stay up as late as midnight and be in contact with me throughout the day to make sure I did get my closing disclosures by midnight on Thursday. And she gave me her personal cell phone number, and she was like, give me a call if you don't receive your documents by this time. I'm going to stay up until, this time, Eastern time, and make sure that you have everything you need so that we can get you closing on time. And, she assured me she was going to do the best she could. If anything else happened that was out of her hands, then there was nothing she could do about that. But she was going to do everything that she could do in her position to help me get to closing. So finally that night, I think around 6:30 or 7 o'clock, I did receive my closing disclosures, which is not to be confused with the clear to close. The closing disclosures are the documents that you have to review that I was talking about, where you have that 3-day period, 3 business days to look them over. And then you should be getting the clear to close pretty close to closing. Now for me, I didn't get the clear to close until I think about 30 minutes before my closing, which was adding even more stress to the situation. Now that Monday morning rolls around and it is the day of closing. I'm super excited. I have butterflies in my stomach. I'm buying my first home, and I barely slept the night before. So I'm super excited. I call the title company. I think I'm scheduled to be there at 9 a.m. I get up super early. I think I end up calling them at 8 or right when they open to confirm that we're scheduled to close. And the lady that's working at the title company says, well, Ms. Woods, I haven't received your closing, your clear to close yet from Navy Federal. I'm still waiting for your closing packet to come through. So I'm kind of confused because I'm I got my closing disclosure. I know my loan officer. I still haven't spoken to her at this point. But the person that I did speak to said, I had my documents, so we would be good to go ahead and still close on Monday. So I call Navy Federal at this point because the title office, I asked her, well, obviously I'm not going to be able to be there at 9 because I'm still waiting for the clear to close, so can we still get this done today? And she says she will do her best to work me in so that I can still be able to close that Monday. And so I think I get pushed out to 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I call Navy Federal to find out what's going on. I explain them my situation, my frustration, and the woman that I spoke to this time on the phone said that she's just waiting on, them to give her the clear to close. She doesn't know how long it's going to be. She doesn't know what other documents they need, because I'm asking at this point, I've submitted everything that you guys have asked of me. What else is there to do, or what else still needs to be verified for me to get the clear to close? because I haven't switched jobs, I haven't moved any money around, I haven't opened up any new accounts or anything like that that would prevent me from getting the mortgage. And so she doesn't have a definite answer for me, but she says that we'll be in touch during that day. And keep in mind, whenever you come to the closing table, as the buyer, when you're paying your closing costs, there's a check that you'll have to bring for a certain amount, and the bank will usually call the title company and confirm what that exact amount needs to be. And so I'm waiting for Navy Federal to call the title company so that I can find out what amount I need to go and tell my bank to put for me in a check so that I can bring that to closing. So finally, I think this is like 45 minutes before I'm supposed to be at the title company, the time that the ladies rescheduled me for that day. Navy Federal calls and says, congratulations, like we have the clear to close. And I just felt this huge like relief and weight off my shoulder. They tell me the exact amount that I need for the check. I go to Navy Federal, I get the check. I have like my fingers crossed driving the whole way over there that nothing else goes wrong. And finally, like when I got to the closing table and was signing the documents, I was like, okay, it's nothing else can go wrong at this point. It's happening. Like I am getting the keys to this house. We made this happen. And my realtor did an amazing job at keeping me calm and diffusing the situation the whole time and just reassuring me that we were going to make sure that everything worked out. And she was going to do everything in her power to make sure that everything works out. And so it was very stressful. And I do think a lot of that stress was unnecessary. I think there could have been some things that Navy Federal could maybe improve on as far as communication, and just maybe the way, I'm not sure like what their process is. I know that this was also during the time that a lot of people are working from home at Navy Federal, so maybe that may kind of add to things being not as organized, because everyone's not working together in a typical like office setting. So there may be some things that get missed or overlooked, or some things that aren't accounted for. And like I said, this isn't just Navy Federal. There are a lot of mortgage companies that have this issue as well. With that being said, this was a year ago, and so things may be a little bit more organized and moving a little bit quicker over there in their mortgage department. And I don't want this review to discourage anyone from using Navy Federal in the future for a mortgage. I would definitely consider giving them another chance. But I do think it's important to note, like, if you are a buyer and let's say, for example, you're working with a seller that wants a quick closing, like, the typical 30 days or less, you may not get that with Navy Federal. And so, I can't say that you won't get that, but at the same time, this is just my experience. So I don't want to look like I'm like hating or throwing shade to Navy Federal, because like I said, working with them for like their banking products and everything else has been great. And I don't know, I don't want that, what I experienced in my process as a home buyer, to discourage or scare anyone else off from buying a house and working with a mortgage lender in the future. Those are just some things that you have to note. And I wish that I would have maybe spoke with some other people before I applied for the loan, before I went ahead and got the house under contract, and maybe shopped around or just looked to see what other lenders have to offer. Because after I closed on the home, and I did speak with some other people that used Navy Federal for their mortgage, there were a lot of people I did find that had a similar experience, whereas things kind of got delayed more than they should have, or they felt like they were in the dark, and there was just a lot of miscommunication throughout the process. And so just take from that what you will, but at the same time, like, also I say that to say, do your research on a lender. And if you aren't sure, ask your realtor, ask, other home buyers that you may know in your area who they went through. There's a lot of great communities out there and a lot of resources. And as a realtor, that's what we're here for. We're here to give you information as much as we know about the different options that are out there to help get you financed. Even though I don't work in the mortgage department, I do work with mortgage lenders, and so I may be able to give you some tips as to who may have a quicker closing, who may have those great programs like a down payment assistance if you're looking for something for no down payment. If you're military, if you're looking for VA, that's what we're here is to be a tool and a guide for you. So Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it's a little bit of a long one today, but I really just wanted to give an honest, open, and in-depth experience to you guys for how things went for me with using my first mortgage through Navy Federal. And I look forward to making more informative videos like this in the future. And so just stay tuned and keep watching. And I appreciate all the support. And again, if you are in Pensacola or Cantonment or Milton or Pace area and you are looking to buy or sell some property, or if I could give you any advice if you're looking to do that in the future, please don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.